Okay, let's try something a little bit different. For this one, I want to explore a house that isn't fully open concept, but also isn't completely closed off. Something a little more balanced. So, open concept has been the default for a while now. Large connected spaces, everything's visible all at once. And that works well, especially for like entertaining or for families that want everything happening kind of all in one place. But not everyone experiences space the same way. Sometimes having everything completely open can feel a little overwhelming for some people. People like me. Noises can travel everywhere, visual clutter, it builds up, and there's not always a place to just step away for a moment and have some peace and quiet. So the idea here isn't to close everything off, it's just to introduce a little more structure and a little more choice to your daily living. So I started thinking about the house as a sequence, moving from more public spaces towards more private ones. Not dramatically, just like a gradual change. So instead of one big open area, the rooms are independently connected and a little bit offset from each other, but not completely cut off. You're not fully exposed to everything all at once. This allows each space to feel like it has its own identity, while still being part of the overall flow of the house. The circulation spine becomes really important here, because it connects everything, but it also acts as a buffer between the rooms where you can sort of transition. It helps the house feel a little more calmer, even though the footprint is still fairly compact. So as I'm starting to lay out the basic walls, I'm trying to keep the geometry pretty simple, but I want to pay attention to how like openings line up and where the hallways go, and more importantly, like where the openings don't line up, where little offsets in the plan can help prevent those long uninterrupted sight lines, or where you kind of turn a corner into a more private hallway so you don't see everything all at once. And even like little subtle shifts in alignment, that can change how a space feels as you move through it. Little things like recessing the main entry door off of a covered area kind of helps set the privacy, and then having to turn a corner and not exactly see the bedroom helps it feel a little more private. But those open areas of places where you would entertain, those are maybe up front and a little closer to where the public might actually be. Jumping back to the exterior, the goal is similar to everything else. Keep the overall form fairly simple, but allow for the openings and spaces to feel intentional, rather than fully exposed. Not necessarily defensive, just a little more quiet. A house that doesn't need to announce everything all at once. Sometimes restraint can actually make the space feel a little more comfortable. After getting my ideas for the outside together, I start modeling the roof, and the form stays pretty straightforward. Just reinforcing that idea that the interest in this project, it comes from the spatial relationships. More from that than dramatic exterior gestures. Simple geometry, but carefully considered openings. And now, as furniture starts getting added, the scale of each room becomes a little more apparent. The living room is sized to feel comfortable, but not oversized. This den becomes a smaller retreat space, something a little more enclosed, where you can step away without completely leaving the main area. The dining space, it sits between the kitchen and the living room, connected, but still defined. And as these pieces start coming together, the house starts to feel less like a diagram and more like a series of places. Places to gather and to focus, and places to just pause for a bit. One thing I find interesting is that when every space is fully open, there's actually less variation in how the house feels. But when the rooms have slightly different levels of enclosure, each one can support a different mood, or whatever you're feeling for that day. It's not necessarily better or worse, these are just different options. From above, you can see how the rooms are still closely connected, but never fully exposed to each other at the same time. That layered arrangement is really the main idea behind this project. In these final renderings, light becomes an important part of the experience. Each room receives daylight a little bit differently, which also helps reinforce that sense of variation as you move through the house. Even though the palette is fairly restrained, the changing light conditions create subtle shifts in the atmosphere. Approaching the house, the exterior remains fairly quiet, letting the interior experience unfold gradually. Moving into the entry, the circulation spine begins to reveal the spaces one at a time, rather than presenting everything immediately. The living room, it feels open, but still contained. The den offers a smaller retreat space, slightly set apart, but still connected to the rest of the house. As you move down the hallway, the transition towards more private areas becomes more noticeable. With the bedroom located further from the main activity zones. Returning back towards the kitchen and dining area, the spaces reconnect, but still maintain a sense of separation. And the outdoor courtyard allows natural light to enter the plan while still maintaining a sense of enclosure. Overall, the goal wasn't to reject open concept entirely, just to explore an alternative that feels a little more balanced, a house that allows connection without requiring constant openness. Sometimes a little separation can actually make a space feel even more comfortable, more supportive of focus or more supportive of rest. Not closed and not isolated, just a little more intentional. Thanks again for coming along with me on the process. And as always, stay curious and design with intent.